Hello, and welcome back to the Coop de Villa channel. I'm Scott Cooper, and I'm here with Noah Fisher, and we've got Owen Thompson here from Villa on Tour as well. We're here to discuss the FA Cup semi-final between Crystal Palace and Aston Villa. Maybe our most disappointing result of the season. We are out of the FA Cup. A real timid and lackluster performance, and a bit of an embarrassment. So we're all licking our wounds this morning, and we'll be talking about that and much more after this. And yes, welcome back to Coop de Villa Live. We are back here for another review. This time it's the Cup semi-final. It was Wembley. You know, there was high hopes. Everyone was pumped for a big game and a big win to take us into the FA Cup final. But it wasn't meant to be. Owen, you were there at Wembley in the Villa end. Very often I'm very, very jealous of the games you get to see, but this was not one of those occasions. It's just I'm not really sure where to start. As to say, I didn't see this coming, and there's a lot of soul searching and a lot of questions and a lot of players and staff that are in the crossfires this morning, UK time, and I guess. Just over to you. How was the feeling in the crowd as the game went and it became evident that we just weren't at the races?
I think having played them 3 times prior to going into yesterday, we really should have done something other than what we'd done in the previous 3 games. We knew how they were going to set up. They were happy to soak it up. Let us have all the ball. One mistake, that's game over. As soon as they got the first goal, the 2 wing-backs dropped in, soaked it up a bit more. In the second half, they waited for another mistake. That was 2-0 and even more game over. The third one, I wasn't even in the ground to see. So I think it was just we were trying to throw everything at it towards the end, and they just picked us off. The whole system, tactics, subs, okay, maybe not the subs, but system, tactics, approach, everything was just an absolute disaster from the first whistle. The team setup was wrong. The way we approached the game was wrong. The way we tried to play the game was wrong. We just fell right into the trap that they've given us every game this season. And ultimately, we completely embarrassed ourselves on the biggest stage of all.
Yeah, I think that's completely fair. And, Noah Emery, obviously gets a lot of love, a lot of praise, a lot of credit from us on this podcast and in other media as well. And he deserves that. But, it's probably the second time in 2 weeks he's got it wrong, or 2 games, should I say, like the City game, bringing on Disassi for cash, that got a lot of criticism, that backfired. And in this game, there was just 2 or 3 players that you think should have played, should have started, that didn't. Of course, Marcus Rashford was injured. He was not part of the squad, so he wasn't an option. But, I think of guys like Mings or Onana or Madson, and I just think they're more in form. They had a great game against Newcastle recently, but they weren't in the team, and Unai went for kind of, he's tried and trusted. Didn't work.
No, and it's the second time this season that I'd say Emmery got it completely wrong. The first time was against Palace in the league at Selhurst Park. So it just seems like the same stories are repeating itself here, Scotty. And I mean, there's a lot of what ifs in football. What if this? What if that? We didn't show up on the day, and Palace executed their plan perfectly, and that's why they're in the final and we're not.
Absolutely, and credit to Palace. They were amazing, and like if there's any Palace fans watching, I'd like to say, good luck in the final, but it would probably hurt our chance of a Europa League spot. So that's something we've got to keep an eye on. Like if Palace win the FA Cup now, we can finish 7th and go into the Conference League and not Europa League. So I do not want that because that will feel like a real letdown. I think now Europa League is a must. If we can't get Champions League, which is still, I guess, a slim possibility, but we've got to get Europa League. So that's got to be the focus from now on. But Owen, I wanted to go to you about something I was thinking about, and that is this sort of like trend or tactic of Emery's to play this possession style in first half of games and not really throw the kitchen sink at the opposition. We play a very holding pattern very often in the first half of games, and we saw it against Preston in the previous round of the Cup. We've seen it in many times over the season against teams that we should be beating or at least like competing well against. And I know why he does it, right? We play this where we want them to come to us and then beat the press, and we want to rest on the ball, and we don't want to overexert ourselves and use our subs in the second half, and all these things make sense. But I've played football not at Aston Villa level, but I was told that you can't turn this on and off, this sort of attacking threat, right? And if you don't attack from the first whistle, and all of a sudden you're 1-0 down, the whole plan's gone out the window. And this, like, let's get to halftime 0-0 and we'll go for a second half approach is, it's so dangerous because you're basically, the best case scenario is 0-0. Very often the opposition are going to score, and all of a sudden you start playing and the actual game starts, right? Whereas we're attacking, they're attacking, and we're already 1-0 down. So I don't understand why he continues to do that.
I think you've got to look at it on a game-by-game basis. Like we've seen where it does work, it looks really good and it's fine, it looks controlled. But obviously there's always the risk of us going 1-0 down. And yesterday was a prime example where we really should not have done that. That was, like I said, exactly how they wanted us to play, exactly how they expected us to play. And it should never be that easy for any team against anyone in a semi-final of an FA Cup. You're there on merit. You're there for beating all the teams in front of you in the previous rounds. And ultimately, we controlled the ball and we created, I don't even think we had a shot on target in the first half, or if we did, it was a bit of hope for one or a bit of, I don't even know. I can't remember.
Conser had that one header. And I think that was it. I mean, I think there was that chance and there was the McGinn chance early in the second half and I think they were our only real two decent efforts at goal. It was poor. And going back to sort of what I was saying is, like, if you look at Palace, right, they're set up for their best players to be effective, right? They're set up for Eze and Mateta to do what they do, right? The rest of them, play their roles so Eze and Mateta can do their thing, right? We set up, and our best attacking threat, in my opinion, and for the season, is Morgan Rogers, right? And he's out on the right wing where he's not comfortable. That's not his best position. And we're sort of just like, we're trying to fit Asensio in. We're trying to do all these things, Noah, and our best player this season, arguably, our best attacking threat, is not in the danger areas where he can really make a difference.
And it hurt, didn't it? I mean, he's been so good this season. He created so many opportunities, goals and assists-wise, in the FA Cup, Premier League, whatever you want to say. And he's playing somewhere he was null and void. Now, I know Asensio's come in and lit the world on fire, but the last few weeks he hasn't, and Rogers has been missing consistent all season. And you look back on this game, as I said before, so many what-ifs, but I mean, that's got to be a lock, doesn't it? Rodgers playing in the position he's dominated in all year, providing chances for Watkins, providing chances for everyone that he's played with, and it's a big of a kick in the teeth.
Yeah, especially in the open spaces of Wembley, right? It's a big pitch, right? It's kind of like a game that you got to kind of win the emotional fight of, the crowd, the sort of the occasion, all that. And if you've got someone like Morgan Rogers running at you through that midfield, which we've seen him do so many times, we saw him do it against Newcastle just a week ago, right? That, the likes of Wharton and these guys in the midfield for Palace, who are good players, it gives them something to really think about. But no, we've got McGinn, Tielemans, and Kamara in there, who are all pretty similar, pretty similar players. And there's no one, maybe McGinn, I guess, could have used his bum and run and turn people occasionally. But yeah, it just seemed like we needed someone a bit different in that number 10 role because, like Noah said, Asensio was kind of non-existent.
Yeah, it was. Asensio hardly got into the game at all. Rodgers didn't get into the game as well. Like I say, time and time again, if your midfield's on top, you've got every chance of winning the game.
Yeah.
You've got every chance of winning the game. And Tielemans had a really poor game, I thought. I'm not going to start singling people out because we could be here till the next semi-final of the FA Cup next year, going on about how dross everyone was. But yeah, Tielemans had a really poor game. And this reluctancy to want to take off Rodgers is critical, and it can kill us. He looks shattered at times, and it will just keep him on as a potential. There's a chance he might run at them and whatever else. But he didn't offer anything. And yeah, because the midfield was not on top, the game was lost.
Absolutely. And look, Noah, there's, looking on social media today and after the game last night, there's a lot of negativity around. There's a lot of people calling people out. There's a lot of players who are in the crosshairs of the fans. And I think the two players I've seen the most sort of flack given to are Pau Torres and Emi Martinez. For different reasons. I think for Pau Torres, for the mistake that led to the goal, he's kind of, lazy, languid sort of style and, I guess just having a bad game. Martinez, I think it's more of a season thing. Well, he hasn't had a great season. And, we do sit here and talk about, he's the world's number one and all this sort of stuff. But I think maybe we got to start to sort of realize that maybe he's not. And, maybe he's sort of, a bit, top 10 goalkeeper in the world, not top 1 goalkeeper in the world. And we've got to sort of, be a bit more realistic, and he needs to sort of maybe be a bit more humble and a bit more, because, those two guys especially have come under a bit of flack. And how would you respond to that?
By staying off social media. I know that we're talking free play, and I'm not really looking at social media. I mean, it's same with Aussie rules over here. Like my City Swans got battered today. You just see some ridiculous posts going around, calling people out. You're not good enough, sell them. Well, at the end of the day, no one else here, like you and I aren't good enough, Scotty, to go make a difference. And the people sitting in the front row, sorry, OT, not good enough either. And I know when the game's gone and stuff, we think about what we could have done and everything. Mistake from Torres, I know he's a real laid-back character and whatnot. And we all know Martinez has been off this season. I do kind of agree. I think Marlon probably should be playing more games, especially when he didn't play in the Champions League. Probably one of the freshest players that we've got. But it's just so easy to sit there and criticise. Like, it really is so easy to sit there and criticise when the pressure's on. Like, Palace were unreal. Like, I know we were poor, but I think that's because a lot of the credit has to go to Palace. They played their game plan to perfection. And at the end of the day, that's why they're in the final. And you can blame players all you like, because more often than not, they're putting a good shift for us this season. It's why we're PSG. It's why we're in the position we are. And we're still a chance at top 5. I know it's a slim one, but keep fighting. There's still 4 games to go.
Yeah, and I mean, I definitely feel as if, this is still a good season, no matter, not no matter what happens, but if we can finish off in the Europa League, at least, then that gives us next season another chance for a trophy, another chance for Champions League qualification, and it's a competition which Emmery knows so well and has won 4 times. So, that brings me, some sort of positivity. But, Owen, I guess the question will be asked, like, where do we go, especially defensively from next season? Because there's a lot of questions of, like, who should play, who's our best back four. Is Mings in that back four? Your best back four is Garcia, is Madson, or Digne? Like, because the Emmery, I guess, go-to back four in the real big games is Cash, Konsa, Pau Torres, Digne. That seems to be, what he goes with. But is that the best back four, or would you say that there's other candidates?
On current form, probably not. Now, maybe this time last year, it probably was our strongest back four. But I think the statistics that came out after the game about Mings and how we hardly ever lose when Mings plays should be enough to get him at least a game. At least he could have been a bit of a voice. I think that's where Konsa struggles, because Torres will just turn up, play his game, whereas Mings will come and start barking out orders, instructions, and whatever. And that probably gives Konsa a bit of a cushion to some extent. The fullback situation, I'm a bit sold on. I am concerned as to why Garcia hasn't had more game time. Or not necessarily concerned, but confused as to why that's happened. The left back one, I'm split on it. I think you've got to kind of depend on the situation. Madson's definitely been much better in previous weeks, but Dean has always been quite consistent in what he does. But
against Ismail Assar, sorry to cut you off, but Madson seemed the logical choice for me. Like, he's got that extra pace. He can make him work the other way a bit more. He can, he can sort of get up and down a bit better than Digne. But he obviously didn't go that way. It is frustrating and it is kind of confusing. I agree with you there. And Mings, he played so well against Isaac in that Newcastle game. And Mateta is a sort of similar, big striker who's quick and, is on form and can score goals. And he just had Konsa and Torres on toast at times in this match.
I think, you just summed it up. He dealt with Isak pretty well. Obviously, the logical thing, like you said, would be Madson deals with the quicker players better, so it would have made sense. But obviously, we don't get paid to make those decisions, and they must see something in training that we don't, that would prioritise putting Dean in over Madson. I don't know. It is a difficult one. It was a very tough one to take, and I guess there's going to be lots of questions asked in the inquest as to how it went so horribly wrong, really. But the fact that you could make cases for all 4 players on the back 4 and players on the bench that could do better jobs than them is a bit of a scary thought, considering how far through the season we are.
Yeah. So Noah, going back to some of the negativity online, because you've got to address it because it's there. I've seen a lot of posts saying things like, "Look, this team are just bottle jobs." Like, now, I mean, obviously, a lot of people like to throw around this sort of crazy language, and I wouldn't go along with that. But the sort of point they're saying is, whenever we're in a position where we're this close to going to the next step, the team seemed to put in a performance like this. Olympiacos last year, when we had one foot in the Champions League spots, we got there in the end, but we started losing games and we nearly fell out last year. Again, this year, winning 5 in a row and going to City, and this is our big chance to beat City. We don't really do it. We don't really turn up. Does this team have that winning mentality? Does it have that sort of killer instinct that you need to be one of the top teams in the country, or are we still a little bit away from that?
The proof's in the pudding, Scott. Like, at the moment, we don't have that winning mentality. We could have gone top of the league if we beat Sheffield United last season. We drew 1-1. Like, it's a real weird one to say that, but in the big moments, the big games, we need players to stand up. They just don't. I'm not sure if we're a few pieces of the puzzle away or if these are the guys to take us forward. It's a weird situation to be in because these are the best seasons we've had as Villa supporters in a very, very long time. And to not have won the FA Cup or at least made the final and the best chance to do so in such a long time, it's going to sting. And it does sting, and I feel everyone's pain because we really thought we could go far. But I don't think they have the winning mentality, as Michael Huggins saying here. When the pressure's on, we crumble.
It does seem to be a bit of a recurring sort of trend, Owen, that, once, we go through these periods of like growth and playing well. I mean, we were here when you were on the pod, last time, we're saying that this is the best we've played all season. We're in a great moment. We're going to finish the season strong. I could see us going the rest of the season unbeaten, things like this, right? And we were, we were well within our rights to say that because we just come off the back of, beating PSG in that second leg, beating, Southampton 3-0, Brighton 3-0, Newcastle. We're sort of, churning out results. We look like the defense was playing the best it had all season, and then to drop this out of nowhere, this performance, it's just, I think Emmery, you could see on the touchline, was absolutely shocked and kind of bemused, and didn't see this coming either.
That's the slightly worrying part about it, because when we saw the team and saw the lineup and saw the first 10 minutes, a lot of people could kind of see where it was going to head. Obviously, you kind of convince yourself that we're still in the game. It's fine. You try and hold on with it as long as possible. But it was almost too easy for them. They showed some quality. The first goal was a great finish, but they didn't feel like they were really at their very best either, Palace, which again is very concerning.
And it's the first shot again that goes in. It's and then they miss the penalty, right? And I'm thinking, right, now if we ever needed like a shot in the arm, all right, this is our day, right? We've got a bit of luck, we've got out of jail, we've got a second chance, a second life here to go and win this game and kind of show up and lift our performance and our effort another 10-15% and get over the line here. But they just go down the other end and score again. That Sarr goal, I don't really know, again, who's closing him down, Emmy's getting beaten from a long distance again. And, these are sort of shots that we've seen him save when he's in good moments, but he just doesn't seem to save anything right now. Not, I don't see the blinding save from Emmy. It's just really predictable and really kind of, disappointing now.
Yeah. Scotty UK in the comments, he's sorry for his rant. I think there's nothing to be sorry about. I think everyone's just frustrated, and it's fair enough to be emotional because I'm not sure about expectations or whatever it was, but it's just like, what could have been this season? You know what I mean, Scott?
Yeah, it is. It's like it's a real punch in the gut, a real sort of, sobering moment. Because, like you said, the disappointment doesn't come from the fact that we haven't had a good season or we're not a good team, or it comes from the fact that it was sort of in our hands, Owen. It was there. We all could almost touch it, like a trophy and a top 5 finish, and a really good run in the Champions League. That would have been a dream season. We got the run in the Champions League. I don't think anyone can sort of fault what happened there. But in basically 2 results, City and this game, this semi-final, we've we've gone from a really hopeful position to oh well, I guess that's that then.
It does feel a little bit like that. It does feel like the season's just kind of, well, that's it now, isn't it? We'll get through the next 4 games, we'll win some, we'll lose a couple, whatever. And that's it. And we go again next season. And it is a bit disappointing to have it end like that, given, like you said, 2 weeks ago, we'd narrowly missed out on a semi-final of a Champions League. And then a couple of good results later, we still have every chance to get 5th. And now all of a sudden it feels like we're going to be massively relying on everyone else to slip up along the way. And I don't think that's going to be the case at all. City look a different side all of a sudden. They look like the side of old. They look like they're grinding out results. You'd expect them to get in there. You'd expect Newcastle to get in there all of a sudden. I just think Forest have probably done enough as well. And with the games we've got left, we never win at Bournemouth away. We never win at Old Trafford. They're going to be difficult. It's going to be very difficult for us to kind of get into those positions now and get top 5. So ultimately, it does feel like it's just a bit of a damp end to a bright season for the most part. But yeah, it all seems to just come crashing down in the last 14 days or so.
Yeah, I guess the real worry is like really falling off the train and possibly finishing 8th. Like if Fulham or someone could catch us, I'm not really sure. I haven't looked at the table, but we need to really focus on this Fulham game now next week, and it has to be a 3 points. Just to calm the nerves, I think, and just to sort of get us back to winning ways and sort of get the players and the feeling around the ground back to a place of positivity, because this one's a tough one to get over. Like the last minute goal to City was a tough one to get over, and this one again was just absolutely terrible from start to finish. But I mean, Jeff makes a good point here. We were 17th when Emmery came in, right? But I have heard a lot of people use this stat, and people say, well, how long are we going to say that for, right? That was 2.5 years ago now. When do we stop saying, well, Emmery was, we were 17th and terrible under Gerrard when he took over. When are we going to start saying, well, how far has Emmery brought us? I mean, obviously, I'm just playing devil's advocate. I don't want to throw Emmery under the bus, and I still think next year Europa League, if that's what it's going to be, it's going to be exciting. Like, I'm looking forward to it. I think we can be in the top 7 again, top 6, and maybe go far, go into the sort of semi-finals or better of the Europa League. But will the owners get frustrated? What do you think, Noah? Do you think?
I don't think the owners will get frustrated. I think that sort of excuse for how far his borders could be running out now, because he's made us a great football side. We play great football, but as I've heard on so many podcasts, you only remembered about what you win. And if you finish 17th or you finish 6th and you win nothing, it doesn't matter. That's how I see it.
Yeah, no, and I agree. I think Emmery has to win something, right, Owen? And if he's going to go down as this like great Premier League Villa manager, like in the likes of, Ron Atkinson, Brian Little, who did win things, yes, the League Cup, but they won things, or even going further back to the greats like, Ron Saunders and Tony Barton that won the big trophies. If we're going to go to that next level and be a winning team, we're going to have to capitalize on one of these cup runs, because the Premier League is still a long way away. I don't think that's realistic right now, but a cup like an FA Cup, a Europa League or a League Cup, is possible, but we've got to, when we get to the business end, make it count.
I guess, like we said earlier, the hand we were dealt in the FA Cup gave us and pretty much all the fans a huge sense of expectation to at least get to the final. On paper, we had the easier of the ties, with the other two teams being above us in the league as well. So it's like, well, we've got to go and show, like you said, we need to win something. And I think that's where a lot of the frustration comes from, in that this was the best chance we had at winning an FA Cup in a very, very long time. Normally we do get stiffed with a pretty rank draw along the way with Chelsea last year. I know we had Stevenage, but we won't talk about that one. But we had a brilliant chance to go out and win it. And if you lose in the final, then it's obviously a different story. But the final itself is just it's a game where anything can happen. It's a final. Form can go out the window. It can disappear.
Yeah.
But yeah, it really is a tough one.
It is, and I guess another thing I would say, Noah, is like Crystal Palace are currently, I'm just looking at the table, currently 12th, and they're always 12th. Yeah. Why are they like prime Barcelona whenever we play them? Like, how is this even possible? I mean, they've won one game in the Premier League in their last 6. All right. It's draw, win, loss, draw. Right. And they're one of these teams that's just always 12. But when they play us, Eze turns into like Lamine Yamal and Mateta turns into Lewandowski, and all of a sudden it's just like we're playing prime Barcelona or something.
It's matchups, and their manager matches up well against Emmery, and the tactics seem to work. I mean, it's 4 games this season, 0, 1, 3. It speaks for itself. Clearly, the manager likes to match up against Emmery and knows that his tactics work out better than Emery's do against him. And there's not much more you can say about it. The proof's in the pudding. And it's not like it's a one-off. Like, it's been happening 4 times this season, and we're pretty lucky to get a point at Villa Park.
That's right. And Mohamed Adam makes a good point here. Like, apparently they're a top 4 team since October. So they had a terrible start to the season, and they've had a difficult couple of weeks. But yeah, they're a weird team. They are a weird team because you look at them on paper and they do have a nice team, a nice squad. You know, guys that kind of go under the radar, like the back 3. You got Tyreek Mitchell, these kind of guys. You got Lacroix. You've got Wharton. A lot of people talk about him, but he's just fair play to them. And I would say good luck for the final, but I don't really mean it because I want us to be in the Europa League. But look, guys, I guess at least we get a week off now. And are you going to Villa Park for the Fulham match, Owen?
Yeah, I should be there. Once I've calmed myself down and reassessed the situation. But yeah, I should be up there.
Is there anything else you wanted to rant about before we get off? Anyone else you want to go 2-footed in on?
I guess a talking point that you may not have seen was the whole thing about certain players going. Were at the boxing last night.
Yes, no, I did see this.
Now, I think the 3 that were there were Rashford, Watkins, Cons, and maybe Ramsey might have been there. I don't know. I mean, I'm a bit on the fence with it, like, because if we'd have won 3-0 yesterday, no one bats an eyelid. I guess the Rashford one is slightly concerning because he didn't look very injured to me, walking around taking photos and whatever else. I guess ultimately the football side of things is a job, not a hobby. So they can have their downtime. I mean, I can understand people's frustration given the way we played yesterday, but yeah, I know that was a bit of a talking point on Twitter yesterday.
Yeah, I think personally, I don't have a problem with it at all. Like you said, like it's one of these professions, being a footballer, where you get treated to a standard that no other profession in the world gets treated to. Like, it's, if somebody, brings out a bad movie in Hollywood, that, they're allowed to go out, like, or if, it's so weird. It is a weird thing. Like, if Rashford didn't go to the to the boxing, what he would have played and he would have been good. Like, it's like, yeah. So I don't have a problem with it. And, I mean, I saw a picture, Ollie Watkins with Declan Rice. They were both there and they had a photo together. I don't have a problem with any of that sort of stuff. Like, they're adults. They can do what they want, just as long as they, rock up to training and they're not, hungover and they're ready to go on the weekend. Then that's fine.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, but it is weird how they kind of just bring these things up. After a big loss, it's very, and Rashford, I think, gets.
The media jump on him, and he does.
The media jump on him especially, and some of it is very nasty and racist, to be honest. In the way that he's treated, especially, and I think that if it was other players, they'd probably not get that same treatment. But I don't have a problem with any of them going to the boxing. That's fine. That's just as long as they're ready to box against Fulham and they put up a fight there. That'll be all right with me.
Yeah.
So Noah, you got anything else you want to talk about? Should we do predictions for Fulham?
That's it, just predictions, I think, and that is it. I've got a nice to say, fly home tomorrow. That's the only news from me over here. Still on the Goldie, but tomorrow morning I'll leave. So this nice skyline will be not in the background next podcast. So.
Well, I'm glad you've had a good time. And how do you think we'll go next Saturday against Fulham? A good early kickoff for the Australian viewers as well for that one.
Can't wait. 4-0 win. Done. Doing a Tommy.
Oh, Jesus.
I think we're going to bounce back. I think at home we're going to bounce back. Players have a point to prove now, and I think we're just going to smash them. I really do.
I'll say 2-1. I mean, I don't know. I think we'll get there, but it's not going to be easy. I think there'll be a bit of a hangover, a bit of nerves around Villa Park.
Yeah, I was also going to go 2-1, but we'll obviously concede with our first shot on goal. I think we'll do enough because it would take a lot for us to lose at home. I think if we did lose at home in these last two games to either of them, that is a complete car crash. But again, obviously, you look at the outside and go, I feel like they're only defeated at home in the league this season, but now is not the time to be losing your games at home, especially with the two teams that we've got coming to Villa Park. Fulham never travel well. Their support is never brilliant away from home. And Tottenham you could do a whole other episode on Tottenham,
they're currently 16th in the in the Premier League. So they've got all their focus on the Europa League, and if they can make the final of the Europa League, then next season we should be making the final and winning it, I think. But look, thanks again for all your support. Please like and subscribe, comment on the video, let us know who you were upset with, where you think, what would you rate the season out of 10 if we ended up getting Europa League and that was it. How do you think how do you think you rate us? And make sure you tell everyone about the podcast. We've still got 4 big games to come, 4 big hopefully we can qualify for the top 5 and get 4 wins. So please catch us on the next video, and until Fulham, we will be back then, and up the Villa.
Up the Villa.
Guys.
Up the Villa.